On this episode, we're going to be talking about how to build trust in a team.
Welcome to Thriving Launch with Luis Congdon and Kamala Chambers, the show for heart-centered entrepreneurs who want it all. Do you have a product or service that you would like to sell online? Or maybe you've been thinking about it, but you're reserved to do it because you need a website, you need complicated systems, and you need to spend money? Well, I've created a completely free course that teaches you how to use Facebook in a purely organic way. This means no ads and no money are needed. You can use Facebook completely free. So head on over to thrivinglaunch.com, opt into my Profit from Social Media course. I'm going to teach you the free methods to using Facebook to make money today. Today's guest is Brian Rott. He's the president and CEO of Cart Mart. He's been working there since 1988. He's excited to celebrate 30 years at Cart Mart, and the company itself has 60 years in business. And we're now going to talk about how to create success in your business and how to utilize your teams. All right, Thriving Launchers, we want to talk about building trust, trusting your team, and having a team that really supports and works with you no matter the size of your business. So without further ado, let's jump on the call. Are you ready to launch? Are you ready to launch, Brian?
I'm ready to go. Let's go.
All right, so one of the first things I want to ask you is, before the interview, you were talking about being in this niche industry of selling carts and how important it is for you to really trust in your team and create a team that is really cohesive, trusting, and works together. Tell me a little bit about that, because that really interests me. I have a friend who actually does all these classes on the entrepreneurial mindset, and to me, it seems like there's this kind of synergy between that and what we're talking about today. So what is the importance of building a team that you really trust?
Well, the importance of building a team is effectively the difference between surviving in business and or failing. In truth, I mean, that any entrepreneur comes up with an idea, starts a business, starts to run a company, and begins to grow. Hopefully, what ultimately happens is their idea, albeit may have been amazing, the greatest thing ever for that particular solution, or that problem. That solution to that particular problem may have been the greatest ever, but if you don't have a strong team to support the rollout of that and or the execution of your plan, then quite frankly, you will fail. And most businesses struggle to grow and certainly will fail if they don't have the right people on the team. And so in our culture here, we really believe in a team environment that drives performance by picking up slack where others have potentially dropped the ball and supporting one another through the growth process so that they become better at what they do. In return, we succeed, and obviously they grow both personally and professionally. It's always a big thing for me, that term of personal and professional growth, because I feel like when you're aligned on a team and you care about them growing both personally and professionally, then it's a win-win. And that's already a really strong foundation for any team, is when both people want to win, player and the coach.
I couldn't do half of what I do, or even, I mean, a fraction of what we do, we couldn't do without our team. The team is what makes the business and creates the success and keeps everything rolling forward. And you said something about creating a strong team environment, and this is something I'd love to hear more about, how you help to create a strong team environment.
So I think the most important thing that helps for my business to be successful in creating a team environment is to collaborate with the team, to collaborate with everyone in the organization as much as possible whenever we have a big deal that affects them. So if we're talking about enhancing our benefits, we don't just sit in a room and decide what benefits we're going to work on today and then make those sweeping decisions. We involve the entire group. We get input from all levels, from the new employee just got hired on who's making minimum wage to the executive who's, you know, on part of the high level thought for the company and execution. So we're finding that we bring in everybody in on all the decisions, at least the ones that really matter to the stakeholders, to the teammates. That it has to start with that. We try not to make too many big decisions without involving everyone. And certainly we try to collaborate in a way, whether it be through weekly, daily, or quarterly all staff meetings, whereby we're encouraging people to bring ideas to the room. We're encouraging people to bring problems with solutions. We really just enhance the time together by getting everyone's input. And one of my favorite things to do is to ask the group, whenever we have a bright idea of where we're going to go, are we going to buy a new business, or are we going to expand into a new market, or take on a new line to support, or whatever we want to do, if it's significant, I ask the team to really think about it and try and talk me out of it, right? So it's big for people to talk you into things when you want to do something big. It's what everyone wants to do, talk you into it. But I really want people to try and talk me out of it. And when they can talk me out of it, in doing so, they might they might open up new ideas that they themselves hadn't thought of, and certainly bring things to myself that help me see the opportunity differently. And I can really appreciate that. And that, again, ties it back to involving people in the ultimate goal of the company, which is to do X or to do Y.
As I listen to you talk about how you involve your team members regardless of where they are in the chain of hierarchy and decision making, at least in the traditional sense of hierarchy and making decisions, it really reminded me of our work with Grocery Outlet, which is a company with over 300 stores, thriving launches. You guys know that this is one of the companies that we help. And one of the things that we absolutely love, and this is something I'm connecting with you here on this interview, is that no matter somebody's position, they have an understanding of customers and buyers and in the whole kind of strata of business that maybe we don't in higher up, or depending on what we do, that we don't understand because we're not on the ground floor. So if we're not there selling the items, or we're not at that grocery store way over somewhere else, or in your case, carts, we might not understand that, hey, this is the cart that people are really loving, but they're not buying it because we haven't propositioned it in this angle, but this particular one store is having this luck, or this one particular seller has noticed this trend. But if we don't listen to them because they're quote unquote not high up or something, then we're missing a really big opportunity. And I think that really empowers your team to not only feel like they have a say, but they're also a part of the bigger machine and cog, and they feel really included. It's like when I work kind of the traditional brick and mortar businesses, I always loved when the boss came out on the floor and greeted me, and I felt like they understood my job. And that sounds like something that's really important to you, and that's one of the ways you're empowering your employees and people that work with you. Yes?
Well, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I started on the floor. At a young age, I started at a minimum wage level, working in the back lot, doing the very same and difficult, challenging tasks that my people here today do. Same stuff. It really the process and or the tasks, so to speak, haven't evolved in 30 years. It's a toilet still needs to get cleaned the same way as it did in 30 years ago. So I know what it's like to having been a voice at a very low level when I got started in this organization, and it was hard for me to be heard. Many of my ideas were often discarded or frankly not listened to. It really took a long time in growing with the company to obviously evolve with the business, but also evolve as a person and as a businessman or a contributor to the team. I've also played at a high level on sport teams, and it's very seldom that the new guy on the block, new guy on the team gets enough time and respect to listen to his ideas. And often it's those new people that are coming to the team, or in this case, our business, that have a lot of great ideas. But it's important to give them the time to season them, not to make rash decisions. So check in with them 60 days, 90 days, 100 days down the line and see what we're doing right and certainly what we're doing wrong and asking them how to fix it. But you have to ask at all levels. So being engaged with the staff is certainly something I wish I did more of. Nowadays, with my travel schedule, it's hard for me to put my arms around everybody at every level. But there's nothing more I like doing than walking the floor and talking to the folks, seeing what's working, not working, what's selling. You follow. So that's certainly key for making that work. And I relish that. It's one of my favorite things to do.
We have a different structure in our company. Obviously, our company is internet based, and so our team is all virtual, and we never have meetings. I know it sounds crazy, but uh, for us, meetings would kind of be a waste of time, and we have a different way of getting input and involving the team. But I would love to hear how you guys do it. How do you get that direct input and feedback from your team? Is it weekly meetings, or is it getting one-on-one interactions with people? What works for you?
Well, we have scheduled time together with managers. We have weekly, daily, weekly, monthly meetings, and I'm not going to say that a lot of these meetings are not oftentimes hard to sit in. And I know that you know, um, I've heard how draining another meeting could be. Meetings can really be counterproductive. But in my business and in my space that I'm in, we can't rely on the technology and the opportunities to be efficient through internet and phone and Skype. I mean, we really need to be touching things like physically. We have to huddle up around the vehicle being built and eyeball it. And things that there's certain things you can't get from a photograph or that you can't get over the telephone. So we have to we have to go where the opportunities and the problems are. So that means a lot of in the moment huddle ups, morning meetings. It sounds as it comes out of my lips, it sounds kind of painful the amount of time people spend in meetings here, but I do believe that at the end of the day, these folks are getting a lot of direction from those meetings. And being a brick and mortar uh, dealership type of environment, we have customers that walk into our facilities, dozens of times a day, and they need to be serviced properly. So, in order to get that soft skills training and the hard training for the actual production or service of what we're talking about, that requires a lot of face to face. So, believe it or not, it's not something that we can get away from as much as probably a lot of companies can operate virtually without that requirement.
I really love hearing there's so many different ways to get to the same place, and what you have to work and adapt for what's going to be successful for your company.
I personally don't think that in most businesses there's a replacement for time spent together. As somebody who's worked in sales and also been a director of a company with a little over 100 employees, we had to have time together because when you're talking about people that are on the ground floor and doing a lot of people based work, there's a lot of time that you need to check in with people, find out the processes, find out what's going on, check ins. We have several different companies in that market that we work with. Like one of the companies we work with, Kamla, that we have regular meetings and they absolutely couldn't do without it, is a senior care. We help a business in the senior care business, and we do weekly check-ins with them, and it's something that they absolutely couldn't do without, and we couldn't do without them. I'm curious, as we're talking about like to me, it seems like we're kind of touching on a few different touch points. Check in with your staff, ask them what's going on, let them feel like they're part of the decision making, empower them to have a voice and have a say and feel as equal as the CEO or as equal as the guy who's mopping the floors. And those are all really great things. I'm kind of, for some reason, really reminiscent of the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, because one of the things he talks about is no matter how great we get advanced in technology and trainings, there's just some real basic things that no matter how, quote, advanced we get, we always have to go back to. And I'm curious, what are some of the things or mistakes that you've noticed that either you made or you've seen other teams make when they're trying to build up a really strong team that you look at and you go, these are some of the mistakes, and I wish I hadn't done it, or I would advise other people stay away from making these mistakes and correct the course as soon as you can?
Wow. Well, that's a tough question to answer because it implies the answer is proving to you that we failed or we're human, right? So we want to pretend like we're always perfect, but that's really not the case. So when you're so the answer to the question is really in regards to humility. So when I've failed, it's been because I've let pride or my beliefs get in the way of a potential successful integration of a staff member or what have you. I mean, we're all human, and you sometimes just don't get along with people, and that's life and business. But when you let that get in the way and you can't take a step back for a minute and recognize your own faults or misgivings, then you will have a higher chance of burning through more people. And the thing that I'm so proud of my company today is the fact that we are very respectful of one another. And I'm not an expert in many things. I do what I do and have done it for a long time, but I align myself with people who are good at things that I'm not. And that's cliche, and it's certainly not a business, discovery. Everybody knows that you align yourself with good people, smart people, hardworking people. But when you let your personal feelings or your ego potentially get in the way, then that's where you realize you can fail. And I'm confident in the past that I've let that happen. And I try to monitor how I'm feeling. I ask a lot more people how they feel about that individual before I just make the decision to do something that is going to hurt the company. And took me a long time to realize that, but that came with maturity and really came with age to realize that you might be in power, but that doesn't mean that you have to be powerful. You don't have to, you have to go with your business gut, but you do have to be humble, and you're not always right. So I certainly take that to heart often.
I hear a lot of wisdom behind your words and a lot of experience, and a lot of thought has really gone into developing this answer that you've had. And it's sort of like this question of what does honey taste like? We really can't describe it until we've had it. And it's very clear that you have something that you've experienced and really have gone into and found an answer. And it's very powerful. It really reminds me of my time when I was a wrestler, and I met one of the world's greatest wrestlers. I was training with him. And one of the things that he said to me is that you cannot always tell a leader, because a leader is not always the person who's actually in charge. It might be just one of the team members who one day picks up the slack or has great input. And as a leader, you will become stronger if you can find those people and identify those moments. And it sounds like you really have, and you've created a wonderful business that serves a niche product and continues to grow because you're applying these really great fundamentals. Thriving Launchers, I want you to consider some of the lessons from today, because well, they're really powerful. And if you're going to run a company and you want to run a business, most of us need other people around us. And if we apply some of today's lessons and wisdoms, we can really move forward and grow business, become more successful, and be happy in the process. And until next time, Thriving Launchers, we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in today.
You've been listening to the Thriving Launch podcast. For books and resources related to today's episode, make sure to head over to thrivinglaunch.com. We'll see you there.